Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by our dear sister, and this is the narration of the message that she sent to me. The message reads like this: Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I am a woman who is aged 32 years old, and I stay in an area called Waterfalls in Main Way. That is where I am staying. So I want to confess to you that I was given this other charm by this other traditional healer. In our language, we call it Mudiwa Diwa, which means that you have to love me. Any man that I want, he has to love me back. So that is the type of a charm that was given to me. My story, it goes on like this. I grew up staying with my mom and my stepfather. But the problem was that my stepfather, after we had started staying together, when he started to see that like my breasts, they were now growing and I was now becoming like a woman that was attractive, then my stepfather started to come into my spare bedroom. Then he started touching me each and every day. He would touch me each and every day. When he would come into my spare bedroom, he would just put his like manhood on top of my private parts little by little, and spreading some Vaseline on his manhood, and after that pushing it a little bit and a little bit. So by the time that he finally penetrated me, I never saw any blood because he had been doing it a little bit by a little bit until he started abusing me each and every night whenever my mom was not there, because my mom, she used to go to Botswana, where she would go and buy some 2-in-1 blankets. Then she would come and sell those 2-in-1 blankets in town or in Mbare. She had a flea market there. So my mom never even suspected that this was what her husband was doing to me. The time when I fell pregnant, I was really young. I was only 12 years old when I fell pregnant for my stepfather. I then told my stepdad that this is what had happened to me. He then said that I was supposed to abort this pregnancy. I nearly died during that abortion because I was too young. At the same time, the charms that he used on me, like the herbs that he gave me to drink, I think that they were just too powerful. Maybe he did not mix those herbs properly. So when I drank those herbs, I started to feel really dizzy and I was shaking in my knees. I was even unable to stand up and walk, and then I just collapsed. When I woke up, I saw that my stepfather, he had laid me on the floor, and like the bed was full of blood. There was blood everywhere. And my stepfather, he was busy mopping the floor because at his house he actually had those wooden tiling. So I had messed up the whole house. When I had tried to walk around, there was just blood that was coming out of my private parts. He mopped everything until it was clean. He then removed the sheets from the bed and he soaked them in water. The very next morning, he washed everything because my mom was supposed to return back from Botswana in about 2 days' time. By the time that she returned, she saw that everything was just okay. It is just that I was still bleeding, but it was not a lot of bleeding. And he had bought a lot of painkillers for me so that I won't feel any pain. By that time, when he had done all of these things to me, when he saw that I had nearly died, then he stopped abusing me altogether. And when since I was used to sleep with a man, even though I knew what he was doing was quite wrong, but my body was already used to this thing. Then at our school, there was this other man who used to sell like your sweets and stuff like that. And when I would go to buy some sweets for him, then I'll just act in a way that showed him that I wanted him to give me some things for free. So I started to date that man, and this man, he was giving me like some money, but this man, he was a married guy. He was the one who taught me how to use family planning, and he also told me to go to the hospital and get a family planning implant. And he said you should never tell the nurses that you and we are actually sleeping together. So when he heard that I had finally gotten that family planning implant, he then said, okay, it is fine, let us start to make love together without using any protection. And I kept on dating a lot of guys. Worst of all, after I had completed my high school, but I could not write my O level because at that time I was already pregnant. There was this other guy from church that I was dating, that I was sleeping with. He was the one that I fell pregnant for. But when I went to his parents' house to become his wife, the mom, because she knew everything that I had been doing, sleeping around, and she then started to tell her son that this is what you have done. You have brought a prostitute here so that she can become your wife. Then if you are going to take this prostitute, know that I am no longer your mother. You have to choose tonight. Oh yes, you have to choose. Whom do you want? Do you want your mother, or do you want this prostitute of yours that you know very well has been sleeping around? Maybe this child that she is carrying, it is not even your child. How do you know? But he knew that the child that I was carrying in my womb, the child was his. That is why he was standing by me and defending me. But unfortunately, since he was not yet working, he did not have a proper job. He was just working for one of his uncles, but on a regular basis. So he was still dependent on his parents. So since the mom had given him an ultimatum and told him that you have to choose between this prostitute and your own mother, he then chose his mother. I cried a lot, but the mom then said that you need to leave my house. I am only going to give you only tonight, but tomorrow I do not want to see you anywhere near my son. I then returned back home. When I returned back home, my stepdad was like really angry with me. He did not want to see me anyway, because I think that he kept on thinking about the things that he had done to me when I was young. So I don't know if he was regretting or what was going on with him. So after I had been kicked out of my in-laws' house, that was when I then stayed with my mom a little bit, but things were really hard. Each and every morning, they would actually lock up even the fridge. They used to lock it up because we had this very old fridge that actually had a lock. They would lock the food, and I would suffer, especially when I was still pregnant. By the time that I gave birth, I saw that I could not stay at my mom's house anymore. I then chose to move out. When I moved out, I went to this other girl who is staying here in Mainway, where I am currently staying. She then taught me everything that she was doing. She told me that the situation was the same, but she had been abused by her own biological father. And after she had been abused by her biological father, she saw that it was far much better for her to go to men in the clubs who would actually pay her to sleep with her, not to be taken advantage of by her father, who was not giving her any single cent. So she started to take me to different nightclubs where we would drink some beer. Then a guy would approach you. Then you will go out and have a quickie. So when I was doing this business at that time, when I was really young, maybe that is when I should have made something out of my life, because I was like in high demand because of my age. I was still underage at that time. So a lot of guys, they would come and they would demand to sleep with me, even though they were paying me. And most of them, they would refuse to use any protection. They will say, a young one like you, why would I want to use any protection on you? I just want to taste you. So I was making a lot of money. I should have used that money wisely. But within a short period of time, I then saw that I was really sick. I was always feeling these body aches, and I sort of like had a flu that never went away. My friend then went with me to the clinic, and I was then caught, and I was then told that I actually had an HIV. And when I had that I had an HIV, maybe I think my stress levels, they got so high and I fell sick. I got so sick that they actually had to make me to wear a pamper, those baby diapers, because I was so thin and I was really sick. But because of the ARVs that I was drinking, at least I then recovered. But most of the people that know me, they just know that I nearly died when I was really sick, and most of the men that know my history, they avoid to sleep with me because of the way that I got sick and nearly died. After I had recovered, I then ran away from home, and now I had the perfect opportunity because my baby, I had left with her with my mom, and I returned back to Waterfalls, and I started again to stay with my friend. We kept on going to different clubs and taverns where we were just drinking alcohol and selling our bodies. When business was really down, my friend then told me that she wanted to go to Nyamapanda, close to the Zimbabwean Mozambican border at Mudzi, at the village in Mudzi. That is where she wanted to go. I said, what do you want to do there? Because as far as I knew her, she came from a village in Morewa. So why did she want to go close to the Zimbabwean Mozambican border? She told me that it was time for her to go and renew her own charms, because each and every 7 years she told me that she had to renew her charms. So I said, I want to accompany you. We then went together, and when we were on the bus, she kept on telling me the reason as to why she was not making a lot of money. It was because her charms had expired. She told me that since her charms had expired, that is the reason why she was unable to make a lot of money like she used to do in the past. Then arrived in Mudzi. That was when that traditional healer started to make some tribal markings on my body using a razor blade, the same razor blade that he had used on himself, because he said that he wanted to mix his blood with my blood. And I was even scared because I was HIV positive, but he laughed at me and he said that his ancestors, they actually eat the HIV virus for lunch, and he was not even afraid of the HIV virus. He even said, if you want, let us sleep together. My friend even laughed at me, and she told me that when she came to this traditional healer, she was HIV positive, and this healer made her to sleep with her, just wanting to show her his powers. And even though they slept together, the guy was still HIV negative. So after he had done all of those things, the man then made me to lie down, and he came on top of me. Then he started to sleep with me. After he had slept with me, he told me that forever his semen was always going to be in my womb. The moment that I'll be making love with a man, then his semen will come out just a little bit. So this semen, it will enter into the man's manhood, and it will go and rest in his balls. And each and every time when this man would have an erection, the first woman that he would think about, it will be me. Whenever the man that I would have slept with after sleeping with this traditional healer, that man will always think about me. The moment that he will be having any money in his pockets, maybe around $100, he will just say, let me go and give that beautiful woman all of this money that I have been given, maybe at work or wherever that he would have gotten this money. So after that, this traditional healer then told me that I had to sleep in a coffin. This coffin, when I was placed inside that coffin, I saw that there was a big number 7 that was printed on this coffin. Each and every side, there were those numbers that were printed, the number 7. This coffin, it was closed up. When it was closed up, I just thought that maybe I spent about 5 minutes in that coffin. But when this coffin was opened up, to my surprise, my friend told me that I had spent 7 days whilst being in that coffin. But I just thought like I only spent about 5 minutes, but 7 days it came to pass whilst I was in that coffin. And this traditional healer was busy actually preparing me and strengthening me. After that, that was when we returned back to Harare, where we are still continuing with our job that we are doing. Oh, dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by our dear sister. She's saying that I just wanted to tell my own story. I did not want to become the person that I am right now. But when your stepdad abuses you at such an age, then it will change you for the rest of your life. You won't look at men and see them like the way that you used to see them before you would have become a victim of abuse. Strange things do happen in this world.